Hi dear, I am Ada and I steal a lot. Watch to find out why I steal.
Once upon a time, in the quiet village of Umuwaka, there lived a girl named Ngozi. Her beauty was the kind that made people pause in the middle of their errands. Her skin glowed like the early morning sun after rain, and her smile could melt the anger of even the hardest man. Yet, whenever her name was mentioned, people did not smile. They sighed, frowned, and gossiped because Ngozi had a problem. She could not stop stealing. It's at first, it started small, a ripe mango from a neighbor's tree, a handful of groundnuts from the market, a few cowries from her mother's calabash. People thought it was childish mischief. Children will be children, they said, but as she grew, her stealing grew with her. By the time Ngozi was 15, nobody trusted her. If anything went missing, a wrapper, a piece of yam, a cock, or a bracelet, tongues would start wagging. Check Ngozi's room, they would say. Her mother, Mama Ijoma, was a poor widow. She had lost her husband to a strange sickness that came after a stormy night. That night, he had gone to fight a thief who had entered their barn, and by morning he was gone. From then, hardship sat like a guest that refused to leave. Still, Mama Ijoma raised her daughter with love and hope. She trained her to greet elders, to cook, to farm, and to pray. She believed her daughter would bring joy one day, but that joy never came. Instead, what came was shame. One afternoon, the village women were in the market, gossiping as usual, when a loud cry broke out. Thief! 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 The cry came from Ezine, the market tailor. She was waving a half-sewn blouse in her hand and pointing at Ngozi, who stood there trembling. I caught her red-handed. She sneaked behind my stall to take my customer's blouse. The crowd gathered quickly. The market women rushed in like bees around spilled honey. Again, shouted Mama Uche, the palm oil seller. This girl will bring her mother to an early grave. Another said, beautiful but cursed. Hissed another. Ngozi fell to her knees. Tears filled her eyes. I don't know why I do it, she whispered. My hand just moves before my mind can stop it. But nobody listened. They dragged her to the square. The elders scolded her. She begged, but shame covered her like dust. That evening, her mother walked home with her head bowed. No words were spoken between them. But in her eyes was pain, the kind of pain that mothers carry when their children's wrongs become their burden. And the thing, days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The stories about Ngozi spread to nearby villages. Beware of the girl from Umuaka who steals without reason, people said. Her mother tried everything. She took her to the church, to the herbalist, to fasting houses, to prophets, but still, the stealing continued. It was as if an invisible hand controlled her. There was a time she stole a chicken meant for a burial. Another time, she took a goat meant for a bride price ceremony. When the goat was found in her mother's compound, the villagers almost burned down their huts. That night, as the flames flickered from their small lamp, Mama Ijoma sat on her stool and cried. What did I do to deserve this, my God? She whispered. Why has my child become a curse in my old age? Ngozi sat in a corner, hugging her knees, staring at the floor. She wanted to speak, but her throat felt like stone. Something heavy sat in her chest, something she had never told anyone. It's the soul. Then one day, something happened that changed everything. It was the day of the village festival, the New Yam celebration. The drums were beating, the dancers were twirling, and the air smelled of roasted yam and palm wine. Everyone was happy. Ngozi came out in her mother's old wrapper, her head tied neatly. For the first time in months, she smiled. Maybe today would be different. Maybe today no one would look at her with suspicion. But fate had other plans. As the dancers swirled and laughter filled the air, a woman screamed, "My necklace! My gold necklace is gone!" Heads turned, eyes scanned. Suspicion moved like wind until it settled on one person, Ngozi. "She was standing near me," the woman shouted. "It must be her." Before Ngozi could speak, hands grabbed her. The crowd dragged her again to the square. "We have had enough of this girl," they shouted. "She will bring bad luck to the village." Someone brought a rope. Someone else fetched palm branches to beat her. Even her mother begged for mercy, but the anger of the crowd was stronger. As they raised the branches, something strange happened. The old chief, Eze Enadozie, who was watching from his chair, suddenly stood. "Stop!" he commanded, his voice carried like thunder. The crowd froze. He looked at Ngozi for a long time, his eyes narrowing, studying her. Then he said, "This girl's spirit is not ordinary. Bring her to my hut tonight." That night, when the village slept, Ngozi sat before the old chief's fire. The flames danced and cracked, throwing shadows on the wall. The chief sat with his staff beside him. "Child," he said slowly, "you say you do not know why you steal, but every action has a root. Every river has a source. Tell me what you remember." Ngozi shook her head. "I don't know, Papa." The old man sighed. "Then close your eyes," he said. "Close them and think. When did your hand first take something that was not yours?" Ngozi obeyed. She tried to remember. At first, nothing came. Then, like a flood, a memory broke through. Her breath caught in her throat. Tears filled her eyes. She saw a little girl herself sitting in a dark room, her father's voice shouting, her mother crying, a man dragging her father outside, a shadow in the dark, then silence. She remembered sneaking out later that night, finding her father's lifeless body near the barn, and beside him a stranger's bag, a bag filled with cowries. She had taken one cowrie that night, clutching it tightly, crying. From that day, she never stopped taking things. Endemol, Ngozi opened her eyes, trembling. "Papa," she whispered, "I think I remember. The night my father died, there was a thief. He fought the thief and died. And when I saw the bag, I took one cowrie. Since that day, it is like something entered me. My hand moves on its own." The old man nodded slowly. "Ah," he said, "now we begin to see. Your father's spirit has been restless. You took from the very bag that caused his death. The curse of that night followed you." Ngozi's tears fell freely. "What can I do, Papa?" The chief stood. "Tomorrow we will go to the shrine. You will return what you took. Only then will the spirit leave you." The next morning, the villagers gathered again, curious. The chief led Ngozi and her mother to the old shrine near the stream. In his hand was a small gourd of palm wine. In Ngozi's hand was a single old cowrie that had lain hidden under her mat all these years. When they reached the shrine, the chief poured the wine on the ground and spoke. "Spirit of the Father, Spirit of Justice, Spirit of the land, here stands your daughter who took what was not hers. She did not know. She was a child of pain. Today she returns it. Let peace return to her life." Ngozi knelt and placed the cowrie on the ground. The wind blew softly. The leaves rustled. For a moment, everyone felt a strange calm, as if the air itself sighed in relief. Then the chief turned to her. "Go home, my daughter. The curse is broken. But remember, no hand that has stolen should be idle. Use it now to give, to bless, to help. That is how you will truly be free. And Esuri, from that day, Ngozi changed. At first, people did not believe it. They thought she was pretending. But weeks passed, then months, and not a single thing went missing. She began to work in the market, helping the old and feeding the hungry. She would bake buns for children, fetch water for widows, and visit the sick. Her heart became softer, her face calmer, and slowly the same mouths that once cursed her began to bless her. "Have you seen Ngozi lately?" they would whisper. "The thief has turned to an angel." Even the chief would smile whenever he saw her. "When a wound heals," he said, "the scar is not a mark of shame, but a memory of survival." And I say, years passed. Ngozi grew into a woman of peace. She became known across the villages for her kindness. People brought gifts to her mother, and their hut was no longer empty. But one evening, a traveler came through Umuaka. He was old and tired, and he stopped by Ngozi's hut to ask for water. She gave him food and a mat to rest. As he sat, he looked closely at her and said, "Are you the daughter of the man who died by the barn many years ago?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, my father was Obioma." The man sighed deeply. "Then I owe you the truth." Ngozi's heart skipped. "What's true?" The old man looked down. "I was the thief that night. The world seemed to stop. Ngozi's breath caught in her throat. "I was young and foolish," he continued. "Your father caught me stealing his yam. We fought. I hit him. I didn't mean to kill him. When I ran, I left my bag behind. I thought the gods would punish me one day. And maybe they did. My life has been full of suffering since then." Tears rolled down his wrinkled face. "I came to beg forgiveness before I die." Ngozi sat in silence. Then slowly she stood and fetched water for him. "Eat," she said quietly. "You are forgiven." The man wept. "You have set me free." But when he left the next morning, Ngozi sat long by the doorway, thinking. One, she realized that forgiveness was not a single act, but a journey. The curse that had followed her had come from pain, from anger, from silence. But now she had peace, not because the past had changed, but because she had faced it. And so she decided to build a small school for children, teaching them honesty, kindness, and courage. She told them her story, not to shame herself, but to show them that even the worst mistake can be a teacher. Whenever the children asked her why she smiled so much, she would say, "Because once I lived in darkness and now I live in peace." If only the world had known why I could not stop stealing, they would have prayed for me instead of cursing me. 1, 2, and that, my children, is the story of Ngozi of Umuaka, the girl who could not stop stealing. Some said she was cursed, some said she was bewitched, but the truth was that she was wounded. Her hand stole what her heart was crying for, the love and peace she lost when her father died. So when you see someone behaving badly, do not rush to judge. Sometimes behind a thief's hand is a broken heart. Sometimes behind a liar's tongue is a wounded soul. As the elders say, the child who burns the house is often the one who wants to feel warm. And that is the end of the story.